I watched a movie a while back. A special movie called Five Children and It. You know what? No. It's not a movie. It's a film. And I didn't watch Five Children and It. Five Children and It watched me. But honestly, I don't even remember how I found this film. I guess somehow, by God's good graces, I stumbled across a poster online, and one look at this absolute baller right here is all I needed to know I'm in for a good-ass time. Every single poster of this motherfucker radiates pure, unadulterated, inflation through the goddamn roof levels of thuggitude. Alright, I'll give you the scoop on what exactly Five Children and It is. The motion picture begins with a gaggle of children, 5 to be exact, who are staying with their unk, because their father is off fighting Nazis or some shit, I don't know, some war. If this child looks familiar, it's because he would grow up to be Sean the dentist of Dr. Han fame. Good to see where dermatologists get their start. So the children pull up to their unc's crib, and right off the bat, you are ambushed, outflanked even, by a swarm of sound effects and music that plays after every breath the characters take.
Good evening, madam. We're looking for our Uncle Albert. We are
5 children.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But you're not due till Friday.
Today is Friday.
It is?
Shame on you! Just imagine those sound effects playing every 10 to 30 seconds throughout the entirety of the film. That's the Five Children and It experience. And it's beautiful. Oh, and also this song.
Tuesday's duck, Wednesday's duck, Thursday's goose. Now put your cases down. It's duck, duck, goose.
Anyway, moving on. Technical aspects aside, the 5 children are soon warned by their aunt and uncle never to go in the greenhouse. So what do the 5 children do? They go in the goddamn greenhouse. That's some ratchet ass shit right there, I'm not gonna lie. And this is where things get interesting. I'm gonna preface this part of the film with some much needed context. The Bible is a collection of religious texts that are sacred to the Christian faith. Keep that in mind. The I am a carpenter child is the first to venture into the greenhouse, later convincing the rest of the children to enter as well. He finds grapes that he eats, then disperses to the other children without a second thought, not even considering the possibility that they've gone bad or are poisonous. This situation is a clear parallel to the Garden of Eden arc in the Bible. The children are in a greenhouse, as Adam and Eve were in a garden. The children were told by their uncle not to go into the greenhouse, just as Adam and Eve were told by God not to eat an apple off the forbidden tree. And just as Adam and Eve ate the apple, the children ate the grapes, both swearing an oath of damnation. Unlike in the Bible, however, the children weren't purposefully tricked into eating the sinful fruit. The grape-distributing child simply enjoyed the taste of the grapes, and shared them amongst his siblings out of an innocent kindness, unlike the serpent who deceived Adam and Eve into eating the forbidden fruit, knowing damn well it would damn them. The serpent and the grape-distributing child represent two opposite sides of evil. The serpent represents evil through cunning, while the child represents evil through ignorance. In other words, the serpent commits evil through an excess of information, while the child commits evil through a lack of information. Whether or not you consider the child just as culpable as the serpent, the end result of their actions is the same, and neither Adam and Eve nor the children will see the light of heaven. Except for 2 of the children, you see, as only 3 of them ate the cursed grapes. Watch closely.
Look at it, it's a mess. Jane, thank you. Very nice. How did you do that?
The eldest child was about to feast on the grapes, but was distracted by the youngest child achieving what none of the other children could achieve, despite their best efforts, opening the mysterious door. The youngest child is human innovation manifest, a torchbearer for future generations. The star child from 2001: A Space Odyssey in the flesh. The youngest child represents the bright side of youth through the potential they hold, the invention they bring, in contrast to the grape-distributing fuck. So anyway, the 5 children wander through the door, and this is where the film actually gets fucking lit. The 5 children arrive at a strange, ethereal beachside, possibly interdimensional. You may have been thinking this entire video, okay, we got the 5 children, but where is the it? Well, good news.
I am a Samiad Crustacea Decapodlium Wishosaurus. Got it?
No.
I am a sand fairy.
Sand fairy?
Yeah.
I thought fairies had little ballet dresses. And wings and wands.
What on earth have you been reading?
I'll call you Sandy.
Why?
Because we found you in sand.
Oh, you're so funny. Have your parents tried boiling you?
Plug's a little weird, but he's chill as hell. Imagine how hard he's ascending when he's hotboxing in that show. It offers to grant the children a wish with its godly, reality-warping powers.
Make a wish, make a wish.
Second thoughts. We're going to leave this little man and go straight back to the house. It's getting dark, and we've still got Uncle's list to get through.
I don't know if the voice actor for it just got their teeth pulled before their lines were recorded or what, but something's going on there. Drugs and or alcohol of some variety. An honorable display of method acting. Also, dude, the sky is bright blue. What do you mean that it's getting dark? It is bright blue. The children wish for all their chores to be completed by magic. And in a stupefying, hilarity-laced twist, they got a bunch of clones doing those chores. Oh, you thought the chores would just be done immediately? No, you got clones. Haha, you know what I mean? It's fucking amazing. What's really important about the sequence is this part. The It demonstrates its incorporeal nature by appearing in the painting. We now know that not only can it grant wishes, it's also capable of manifesting itself in inanimate objects, using them as vessels for its consciousness. The potential for worldwide omnipotence it is capable of with this ability is truly horrifying. The possibility of it interrupting one of our furry porn goon sessions by manifesting itself on a bottle of lotion with a knowing smirk is a good reason for all of us to reconsider our behavior. Anyhow, the children successfully prevent their aunt and uncle from noticing the Roman legion worth of clones inhabiting their home, and the clones vanish come sunset. Eager to nab more wishes, the children return to it. It's immediately clear that it is deteriorating as its speech is further reduced into babble.
That hole doesn't look very comfortable.
Yes, it is.
Perhaps laying credence to the theory that it enacts wishes through aneurysms. This whole scene is weird.
Was anything damaged?
It was absolutely mess.
The way it whips that towel out of its shell kind of makes it seem like that's what the music cue is applying significance to. Like it says Titanic on the towel, is the implication that it caused the Titanic to sink, then snatched that towel from the sinking remains? I can only imagine the sheer terror those poor passengers must have felt when its face manifested onto an oncoming iceberg. Also, the children's reactions, the girls seem to be speaking in unison, and this kid is goofy. Plenty is, I think, what he's saying in British.
Not so fast, Sam Fairy!
Vital it lore is then divulged. For one, it reveals that its wishes only last until sunset. It refraining from divulging this information to the children showcases its trickster demon and morally gray nature. It also emphasizes the fact that it is not it who irons out the details of their wishes. Instead, it is a different being or system that holds this power, which it calls the rules. It sends wishes it receives to the entity called the rules, and the rules is who decides how the wishes are implemented. It is a messenger of sorts. With this limited information, one can only speculate on what exactly the rules is, or what the implications of its powers are. Regardless, what's important is to marvel its sheer beauty in this shot. It's majestic.
I am a sand fairy. Oh, it's me.
The grape distributing child, once again displaying his sinful impulses, wishes for buckets of gold. And buckets of gold the children receive. Thereafter they venture into town to put their gold to use. The children attempt to use their coin of devil on pious institutions, such as an ice cream salesman and a vase shop, but they are rebuked in the name of all that is holy. Hey, watch this grape eater get BTFO'd.
Sorry, lad.
It, seemingly being incapable of manifesting itself on humans, is the only thing that just saved us from the scariest scene in cinema. We are then introduced to a man who really likes gold.
There must be someone willing to take the heap of gold, no questions asked.
Gold, you say? The subtle hesitation is the chef's kiss on this one. You might think that, oh, okay, so this guy will now approach the children and offer to sell them something for their gold. No. Fuck you. He immediately walks into a car store, which the children happen to walk into as well, then emerges from behind a car he was crouching in a corner by. He then sells the children a car and takes them on a public test drive through the town, where they barrel through civilians and structures, causing unmitigated levels of destruction and grief. There's a profoundness hiding under the surface of this scene, however. Notice what the 5 children are driving. A car.
It's me! Dodge Charger.
Perhaps the most enigmatic icon of the Industrial Revolution and the rise of capitalism. As the 5 children drive the car, they crash into a group of nuns, whose religious garb blinds them and causes them to veer off the road. This demonstrates the inherent incompatibility between capitalism and religion, clearly a nod to There Will Be Blood. My good friend and professor of economic at Squidward Community College, Funko Freddy, will be elaborating on the role money plays in 5 Children in It.
Thanks for having me. It's interesting to consider the bizarre, overwhelming, yet impermanent influence of currency on the will of man in this film. We can see how easy it is to acquire mass quantities of doubloon, and how rapidly it warps the Reagan-era trickle-down economics money man's social positioning relative to the children. He goes from not taking them seriously as prospective business partners to referring to the young boy as a sir, all because of the realization that they were extremely wealthy.
Listen up.
Yes.
We can also see how the children generate far more currency than they would ever even need to replace the broken items from earlier on in the film, and fail to execute their quest by getting derailed and distracted by other goods and services for which they could now exchange the gold. The striking imagery of the 5 children waddling into the town with a mere 2 buckets of gold as they leave literal mountains of buckets behind unused demonstrates the excessive waste of their greed swimmingly. 'Tis a classic farce that may as well have been ripped straight out of the Canterbury Tales. Many chortles are to be had with this comical predicament. The film also advances the principle that great wealth corresponds to improved legal privilege / protection from legal consequence. We can see this from how Reagan-era trickle-down economics money man, or RETDEM for short, is taken into custody, and the children are presumed innocent without a second thought. While the money ended up being fake, there's no denying that it made the children wealthy and consequently benefit, even if briefly, from the status changes that such wealth brings. And obviously, the man must not have been very rich himself if he was so infatuated with the prospect of receiving more gold. You know what else are infatuated with the prospect of receiving gold? Leprechaun. Leprechaun are not just a joke or whimsical farce, folks. These clover roots run deep. The mischievous creatures of whimsy are corrupting society while dancing in the shadows, bathing in the gold they've reaped from our toil, undetected. Our culture has been cucked by the Leprechaun menace, to the extent that we have an entire day dedicated to worshipping them. The day of St. Pat, that is. Do not become a useful tool of the Leprechaun and regard them as mythos. That's precisely what the Jolly Green Fox are hoping for. I will provide a personal example of how the Leprechaun affected my life personally. Recently, I went on a date with a darling damsel, and upon arriving home, I showed her footage documenting my experience with a leprechaun. She was completely unwilling to accept the truth, saying she was uncomfortable and fleeing the premises immediately. What a goddamn leprosel. Here's a diagram depicting me as the base Chad and those unplugged from the Leprechaun truth as soy virgins. The answer, my friends, is not to avert your eyes from these greedy scamps like a good little leprechaun. I will now show you the aforementioned footage I took of my leprechaun encounter. I must warn you that the footage is disturbing, so feel free to grab a weighted blanket or a stress ball. Well, there you have it, folks. Irrefutable proof of the existence of the leprechaun. I'm barely stifling a scream. Wapafe, I'm sorry for having to show such graphic content on your channel, and I speak for all of us when I say a new change of pants is in order. I know it's horrifying, but we cannot sit back and let the pesky buggers frolic about out of fear. We must take a stand against the leprechaun. The biggest issue at play is that leprechaun are an elusive breed, fast, little, and clever enough to evade traps of any sort. Fortunately, after many years of extensive study, I have discovered their weakness, and I have a foolproof method for exterminating them. Listen closely. My final message. To exterminate a leprechaun. Hey, hands up,
Freddy? Sounds like Freddy's having some technical difficulties. Alright, Freddy's gonna take a break. After the gold-loving Greedster is arrested, the children head back to their uncle's house, where they read a sweet and saccharine letter supposedly written by their father. Tragedy soon interrupts the children's joy, as they are locked in a room by their cousin Horace, who has his own lab and spends his spare time melting baby dolls in acid. I neglected to mention him up to this point, but now that he's affected the plot, I've been left with no choice. The grape-chewing child is spared from Horace's trap, and for once uses his existence for good by wishing for the children to be granted wings. This is where the peak of the film is reached, both spectacally and spatially, as the children spread their wings and fly through the air. The stakes of the adventure are further heightened by an encounter with Nazi bomber planes. One of the children unfortunately loses her life by colliding with one of the aircraft, but luckily the mood is soon uplifted through this frame, which is straight up profile pic worthy. Upon returning to their uncle's house, the five children's mother appears and informs the wretched tots that their father has been missing for months. This immediately begs the question of who or what wrote the letter. A question that will never be answered. So anyway, it says some shit.
I can show you the way, but in the end, it's up to you.
It is then captured by Horace and brought to his lab, where he straps it down to a table and prepares to cut it open.
Are you suggesting that I not perform a proper exploratory dissection?
Horace, it's not a dissection if the victim is alive. It's a vivisection. This utter buffoon's attempt to mutilate it is interrupted when a dinosaur spawns in the lab, which, at this point, don't ask questions. The movie's gone out of control, and is just too darn wacky to keep track of. Like, we're in Book of Revelation territory here. So after the dinosaur thwarts Horace's scheme, the children cap things off with one final wish, and their wish is to see Papa return with the goddamn milk. A person resembling their father arrives, but acts strangely cold and robotic. It's as if it is not truly their father they are interacting with, but rather a malformed mental projection of their father, like an alien trying to replicate a human.
Oh, what's happening? I don't understand it, I get you. Oh.
The artificial nature of this man is further reinforced when he vanishes come sunset. Grape Boy was busy plucking grapes off the vine as usual, so he missed his chance to embrace his father, as if the Tower of Elves wasn't high enough already. Also, these children need to stop scheduling wishes right before sunset, like holy shit. Due to mounting traumas and criminal charges, it becomes clear that it's time to part ways with it. First, the children celebrate its 8,311th birthday, which is a big number, and they all stuff their faces with cake as it recounts the horrors of the Black Death. The children then leave it back to brewing in its own personal purgatory, and may the gods will it that no cunning wrongdoers stumble upon it and its powers. After all, the grape-eating child alone nearly caused the downfall of Western civilization. One final surprise befalls us, as the five children's father hath returned, but for real this time. A few drops of inhuman behavior still slip through though, and this look on the father's face tells you everything you need to know. That's the Nanogenic 3000 right there. I even know the model. It teases a sequel as the film comes to a close.
We'll see them again in episode 2 called It and 5 Children.
Clearly this idea was scrapped because, as we all know, after you've already made a masterpiece, there's no need for an encore. Why do you think Einstein dicked around and died after proving MC squared equals X? Ain't got shit to prove. So that wraps up the 5 Children and It experience. Like any good work of Plato's, we are left with plenty of questions to ponder, such as were the aunt and uncle aware of it? After all, they warned the children not to go into the greenhouse, yet never acknowledge it. What are the extent of its powers, and how do the rules tie in? If you wished for the universe to cease existing, would it oblige? And if so, how would the wish be reversed at sunset without the existence of sunsets? And what exactly was the creature masquerading as the children's father? Perhaps some questions are left unanswered, such as the question of whether or not it was worth making an over 20-minute video on an obscure children's film called 5 Children and It, which I think is for the best, as the question answers itself. One more thing. There's a post-credits sequence where It advertises a 5 Children and It branded mug that was apparently sold in theaters.
Now, Wishes mugs are available in the foyer of all good cinemas.
I couldn't find any record of such a thing, and perhaps I am falling for one of It's classic jests, but I humbly beg for any living being who happens to stumble across this footage to send one of these mugs, or at least evidence of the mug's existence, my way, if it truly does exist. I've cut through miles of the sweltering hot jungle that is 5 Children and It, and am left empty-handed. I need a motherfucking El Dorado, dude, or I'm gonna be out here like Aguirre, the Wrath of God. Oh, hold up, someone's knocking on my door. Must be the DoorDash driver with Burger King. It's weird. I guess they're doing indoor deliveries these days. Well, I'll sign off here. Just what I needed. Time to sink my chompers in a piping hot